I grew up in a quiet part of Nashville, Tennessee, where families gathered on porches during summer evenings, kids played in the sprinklers, and neighbors shared sweet iced tea over long conversations. My life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful enough. I lived with my son, Daniel Carter, who was 16 years old and full of energy, ideas, and that sharp sense of humor only teenagers seem to master. Daniel was everything to me. After my husband passed away 5 years ago, I dedicated my world to raising him. It wasn't always easy, but we managed together, through late-night talks, school projects, and endless baseball games. He had grown into a tall, kind-hearted boy with an athlete's posture and a gentle soul. He was at that age where questions about life, responsibility, and the future seemed to weigh on him more and more. One evening in early spring, the house was unusually quiet. The rain tapped softly against the windows while the smell of baked cornbread filled the kitchen. I was standing at the counter, stirring a pot of chili, when I felt a presence behind me. Turning slightly, I saw Daniel standing there, his hands shoved in his hoodie pocket, his expression uncertain. "Mom," he said slowly, "can I ask you something in the kitchen?" His tone wasn't casual. It was deliberate, almost hesitant. I nodded, wiping my hands on a towel and pulling out a chair at the small wooden table where we often ate breakfast. "Of course, honey. Sit down. What's on your mind?" Daniel sat, but his eyes stayed fixed on the steam rising from the chili pot. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he blurted out, "How do you know if you're doing the right thing in life?" I blinked. I hadn't expected that. Most of the time, his questions were about homework, baseball, or whether I could lend him the car keys. But this was different. This was deeper. "Well," I began, carefully sitting across from him, "are you asking about school or friends or life in general?" "Life," he admitted. "Like, Dad's not here anymore, and sometimes I wonder if I'm living up to what he'd want me to be, or if I'm making the right choices. I just don't want to disappoint you. Or him." His words pierced me, and for a moment I had to hold back tears. He was still just a boy, yet here he was carrying the weight of a man's questions. I reached across the table, resting my hand gently over his. "Daniel, listen to me. Your dad loved you more than anything in this world. And I know he'd be proud of the young man you're becoming, not because you're perfect, but because you care enough to ask these kinds of questions." He looked at me, his hazel eyes glistening. "But what if I mess up? What if I don't get into college, or I make the wrong friends, or I just fail?" I smiled softly, squeezing his hand. "Then you'll learn. That's what life is, making mistakes, learning, and trying again. Failure doesn't mean you're done. It means you're growing. And as for me, you could never disappoint me. As long as you're honest, kind, and willing to try, I'll always be proud of you." For the next hour, we sat in that kitchen, the chili forgotten on the stove, as Daniel poured out his worries, about fitting in, about his future, about the pressure of being the man of the house. I listened, sometimes offering advice, sometimes just letting him talk. At one point, he asked, "Do you ever get scared too? Like, about the future?" I chuckled softly. "All the time. I just don't always show it. But I learned something, Daniel. Courage isn't about not being scared. It's about being scared and moving forward anyway." That conversation changed something between us. It wasn't just mother and son anymore. It felt like two people on a journey together, learning from each other. Weeks turned into months, and that evening in the kitchen became one of those memories that stayed with both of us. Daniel started opening up more often, about school stress, about friends, even about the girl he liked but was too shy to talk to. Each time, I reminded him of the same lesson. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being kind, and being brave enough to face whatever comes. One summer afternoon, months after that rainy night, Daniel stood at the kitchen counter while I chopped vegetables for dinner. He leaned casually against the counter and said with a smile, "Hey, Mom, remember that night I asked you about life? In the kitchen?" I laughed. "Of course I do. How could I forget?" "Well, I think I'm starting to get it now," he said. "It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. And about trying." Tears pricked my eyes again, but this time they were happy ones. My son was growing up, not just in age, but in heart and spirit. Years from now, I know he'll remember that conversation. Maybe he'll sit in his own kitchen one day, with his own children, and pass along the same words I gave him. Maybe he'll say, "Don't worry about being perfect. Just be brave enough to try." And maybe, just maybe, on some rainy evening, his child will sit across from him, searching for answers, and he'll know exactly what to say, because of the night we shared together, right there in our Nashville kitchen.